Somebody asked me recently why I've worked so many different places. Can't keep a job. It's really been intriguing to me to go back over 45 years of ministry and feel so young. Because every day is a brand new adventure with Jesus. Doesn't matter where it is or what you're doing. It's a brand new adventure with Jesus. And I love that. Text for you from the Message Bible. Doesn't read quite the same anywhere else. Romans 12 verses 1 and 2. Ready? So here's what I want you to do. God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're getting up, walking around, eating breakfast, climbing Long's Peak life. Place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God has done for you is the only thing you can do for God. You hear that? That's grace. So here's what I want you to do. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're getting up, eating breakfast, going around, talking to people life, and place it before God as an offering, as a, what does King James say? Living sacrifice. Embracing what God has done for you is the only thing you can ever do for God. When Brenda and I met at Loma Linda University 1,000 years ago, actually, funniest thing, you saw Brenda this morning. Brenda, where are you? I've lost you. There you are. Fine. Brenda, honestly, still looks like about 38. And so recently we were in Ghana, and one of the pastors looked at Brenda and looked at me and said, "Your wife is so young and beautiful," which was a nice way of saying, "You are sure old and ugly." And I said, "Yeah, I married her when she was 12. And, you know, I've said that in the U.S., but in Ghana, he looked at me and said, "Your parents chose well." And Brenda says, "I can never use that overseas ever again. It's just awful." Oh, my. My. I want to tell you a story you've never heard, ever. In 1984, after I left Campion Academy, one of the assignments that was given to me, for some crazy reason, I was the youth director at that point for the North Pacific Union out of Oregon, Washington, Alaska. That was a bummer. And Montana. Can you imagine Idaho? What a glorious place. It was almost as good as Colorado. The assignment that I was given as youth director, one of them, for the North American Division, was to be the logistics director for the first international Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinder Camporee in Camp Hale, Colorado. Now, I got the assignment because I knew Colorado, not because I was competent. I had no idea what I was doing. And so we get into these conversations about what is a Pathfinder Camporee when it's international. How do you make it international? How do you get 4,000 Pathfinders together? Nobody had ever done that. It was a brand new idea. Les Pitton was the youth director for the North American Division. And so we all got together and started dreaming. How can you do this? We met in some place in Vail, and then Norm Middag said, "Dick, we need to go look at this place." That was the first time I had ever noticed that Camp Hale existed. You know where that is? If you go to Leadville, and the easiest way to get there is to go I-70 till you get to Minturn, just beyond Vail, turn left, and go almost to Leadville. You get almost to the top. You know, there's Cooper Mountain and there's Copper Mountain. Well, Copper Mountain, we all know. Cooper Mountain's a little bit different. It's a ski slope that was developed for the 10th Mountain Division during the Second World War. It was developed so that they could attack in Italy in the snow. And our men trained there, and they lived in Camp Hale. When the government tried to find the worst possible spot in America to train troops to fight in Italy, they chose Camp Hale. And as you get there, the Eagle River comes down from the copper mine, molybdenum mine, and the Eagle River kind of winds through, and Camp Hale is in a valley. It's about 10.5, if I remember right, and it's shaped like a cowboy boot. You got a long 12.5-inch, and then you get this monster, ugly heel of rock and a toe that comes this way. And the Eagle River flows right through that. I stood there, tried to imagine what a Pathfinder camporee would look like at Camp Hale. I'd already made a list of the stuff I would need. Water. It's a good place to begin, isn't it? If you got 4,000 kids, and that's what we expected, somebody said you might get 5, so I started planning for 6 just to be safe. And I stood there that day and really didn't sink in. A few weeks later, I went back, and I met with the local ranger, the guy who for 2 years, he and I would practically live together much of the time. I basically moved to Camp Hale for 6 months of that time. Lived up there, tried to figure out how on earth to do this. And Frank Poole was my ranger. And he and I would sit in Camp Hale, and he would go through with me everything. This guy had been a logistics guy in the Second World War. He knew exactly the problems I was going to face. He was such a help. And so we go through all of the challenges. You got to have water. You got to figure out how to get it to all these kids. You got to have food. You got to have some kind of telephone service. You've got to have coffins for all the kids who are going to die. He was really encouraging. So he was gone, and I was there alone, stark alone. There was no water. Camp Hale. Oh, there was the Eagle River. When we checked its quality, it was so full of giardia, we would have had to triple the number of coffins. It was absolutely unusable. We were going to have to put up signs, "Do not drink the water. This is Mexico." It was just awful. And there was no way that you could clean up the river. It comes straight out of Climax Moly Mine. So I went up to Climax, and I talked to the people. I said, "Do you have any ideas how to do this?" And the guy who was the fireman at the Climax Moly Mine became my best friend. He was more help than anybody else in planning this camporee. And he'd come down and work with me, and he'd tip me in his old Jeep, and he didn't have just an old Jeep. He had a real vehicle that would go anywhere on the planet. And we couldn't figure out what to do about the water. So I called a Pathfinder director in Florida, Benny Tillman. And I said, "Benny, you're a plumber. You're a Pathfinder leader. I need you in Colorado for a couple days." And I called another Pathfinder leader I know, Milford Terrell, Boise, Idaho. The best plumbing, and it's true. And I said, "Guys, come down here. I need to pray with you over water in Camp Hale." September. Early October. We came to Camp Hale. We tested the water. Pool came to help us. Firemen came to help us. Somewhere, Benny had scrounged a map from the United States government of Camp Hale. On that map are 3 wells. We found those wells. When we found the first one, we dug and realized it would take a lot of dynamite to blow the well and get the water. We found a second one. There was no way to ever get in it. When the government left, we discovered 30 feet of concrete in that well. It's not ever going to be used for anything. Then we found the third well. It was harder to find. It was closer to the heel of the boot. And Benny dug around it and said, "I think we may be able to do this." And with a winch on the end of a truck, we were able to pull the plug out number 3. And we tested the water. Pure. Coors could make beer with it. That's a really bad quote. Don't use it. I think that was what Benny said. This water is so good, it's Rocky Mountain spring water. But how much was there? The water was 20 feet down the well. How are we going to find out how much was there? So that was now early October, and it was Thursday. So Benny and I worked out a deal with the local well driller. We said, why don't you go in and test this thing? Can you do that on Monday for us? And he said, yeah, I'll go in and do it Monday. And so we knew that he was going to take his big truck in. We hired him from Rifle. He was going to take his drilling rig, and he was going to test how much he could pump out of that well. Did we have enough water to serve? No, we didn't. Did we have enough water to serve 6,000, I'd started saying 7,000 kids? You got to pump it as hard as you can to find out. It's a 6-inch well casing. So on Monday, he called and said, I'm going in. I felt like we were on some sort of an aircraft drill. I'm going in. And he went in. And we didn't hear from him the rest of Monday. And we didn't hear from him Tuesday. But Monday night, I watched the Broncos beat the Green Bay Packers in the Blizzard Bowl. Remember that Monday night? Okay, so I'm watching the Packers just die. And I'm watching the Broncos win, and I'm going, yeah, from Oregon. And we didn't hear from the guy, from the well driller. We didn't hear from him all day Tuesday. We didn't hear from him all day Wednesday. And Benny calls me and says, so what'd the well driller say? And I said, I don't know. He won't answer his phone. There's nothing. I have no idea what's going on. Wednesday afternoon, he called. Duerksen? Yeah, I hate you. I love calls that start that way. I said, why? And he said, because I went down there into that well thinking that I was going to pump a little while, go home and watch the Broncos. I got stuck in the worst blizzard I've ever seen. My trucks were stuck so deep in snow and water and mud and who knows what all. And he talked on and on. Finally, I said, hey, yo, how much water could you pump? And he laughed and he said, that was part of my problem. Once I started pumping, I realized that I could pump 1,000 gallons a minute if I wanted to. And then I had that water all over the ground, and then it froze solid, and my trucks haven't been able to get out for 2 days. And I said, thank you, Jesus, for all you've done. Thank you, Lord. Here's what I want you to do. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're getting up in the morning and trying to figure out where to find water for a Pathfinder Campery life. Place it before God as an offering. The only thing you can do for God is to embrace what he has already done for you. He left the smallest plug in the best well on the Camp Hale grounds. I've learned that since. So now all we got to do is figure out how to get the water to the kids. That should be easy, isn't it? Put a fountain. Well, imagine, by now, we're really starting to look at this, and I'm starting to scratch my head and say, all right, I'm going to think bigger, and I called Bob Poole, and I said, you got to come over here and help me with this, because I got a real problem. So he came, and we met at Camp Hale, and I said, I have a gut feeling we're going to have 10,000 children. And he said, blankety blank, awful. And I said, so how am I going to get water to them? He said, I have no idea. That's a stupid problem. So I called Milford and Benny. And Milford said, we were standing on Camp Hale, snow up to our waist. And we're looking around trying to figure out how to get water from down here to 10,000 kids from the heel of the boot halfway up. And Milford says, you know, if we would put a 10,000 gallon milk truck right up there on that promontory And Benny said, yeah, how are you going to get it there? There's no road. And he said, this is Colorado. You can get anything anywhere. So we started looking for milk trucks. Where would you go in Colorado to find a vacant milk truck that has an owner who is willing to take it on a four-wheel drive non-road up the side of a mountain, park it up there, pump 6 inches of water into it, and then gravity feed out of... No, sir, I'm really sorry. We're going to need 2 10,000-gallon trucks. Where are you going to find this guy? Well, so we started calling. I called every milk distributor in the state of Colorado. I started looking for 10,000-gallon milk trucks. I said, what if we just use petroleum trucks? There's lots of those. And Milford says, have you ever tasted petroleum water? Okay, that's shot that. What do? You pray, right? You pray. So in Florida, Idaho, and Oregon, and several times in Campion, together and alone, we prayed, God, we got to find a milk truck. There is one man who owns all the milk trucks in the state of Colorado. I didn't know that. That was 1984, and he did. And he was unavailable. We could not locate him anywhere. So Milford one day, I called Milford and I said, we got to get this fixed. It's getting too close to Camporee. We got to get this solved. So would you please fly down here? So Milford asked his friend Chico to bring him down to Denver, and he was going to find the milk truck dude. Well, I'm 6'2", and I weigh a little bit. Milford's 6'7", and weighs more. He is impressive, to say the least. Chico, on the other hand, is a short little Italian guy with a leather jacket and beady black eyes. And Chico's plane brought him Denver, and the two of them went looking for milk trucks. They rented a big four-wheel drive something or other and started looking all over town. And they went to the address where Bill, the milk truck owner, keeps his trucks. They parked in front of the lot where the milk truck should be. It was bare empty. Nothing. There was a chain link fence. Private property, come on here, you will be killed, kind of thing. And so Milford and Chico sat there and said, what do we do? I don't know. How do we fix this? I have no idea. And then Milford said, I don't know, there's a little trailer over here, obviously a job trailer for some work site. Let's go over and ask them. Maybe they know where Bill lives. And so Milford and Chico together walk across the road to the little trailer, the work trailer. It's just a normal old, mobile work trailer. And the door is unlocked. Milford walks in. Milford, this huge man who fills the door and ducks to get in. And Chico, who comes in behind him with his hands in his pockets, and you know he's got Berettas in there. There's a counter. There's a lady behind the counter. There are 4 doors. In each of the 4 doors stands a man bigger than Milford with his hand in his jacket. And the lady says, what do you want? Show me your badge. And Milford says, no, there are no badges. We're just 2 guys. We work for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're planning to have a Pathfinder Camporee. It's kind of like a Boy Scout Jamboree, but except better. And we're going to do this up in Camp Hale. And I need to talk to the guy who owns the milk trucks, who lives across, where there's no milk trucks. And the lady says, show me your badge now or get out. And Milford, who at that point has never been intimidated by anyone or anything in his entire life, and still has not, just completely blows it. He reaches in his wallet, he pulls out his and plops his big badge. The guy is a fire chief in his spare time in Idaho. And the governor has given him a badge as the best fire chief in the world, kind of thing. And so it's, and the lady said, I knew it! You're narcs! Get out of here now! And the 4 guys start attacking. And Milford says, we are not! We are Seventh-day Adventist Christians, and we don't want to die here. And they said, they get off the property right now. We don't ever want to see you again. This never happened. And Milford and Chico walked out and went, oh, God! Why did you send us over there? They went back to their truck, got in and shook, literally. And Milford said, we got to pray. And they prayed, God, we don't know what we just got into, but we don't ever want to get back into that again. Would you please figure out how to help us find Bill? They open their eyes. There is a milk truck driving down the road toward them, pulled by a brand new Peterbilt. The tractor is gorgeous. Every bit of chrome on it is shining. And on a snow-covered road, that is a beautiful sight. Chrome tractor, chrome truck, 10,000 gallons of water in Milford's eyes. So Milford jumps out of the truck, runs to the middle of the road and says, "Stop!" He didn't even pull out his badge. And the truck stops. And Milford and Chico both now run up to the truck. And Milford climbs up the side of the tractor. The window rolls down. The guy with the big cigar looks out and says, "What do you want?" "You Bill?" "I'm Bill. I'm Milford. I need you to take 2 of your 10,000-gallon milk trucks, clean them out, take them up a 4-wheel drive road that doesn't exist, and put them on this little ledge up here on the top of the hill, and then we're going to pump 6 inches of water into them, and then gravity feed the valley of Camp Hale for 20,000 Pathfinders." And Bill says, "When?" Gave him the dates. And he thought any minute, and he said, "That is the stupidest request I've ever heard in my life. You bet I'll do it." You've never heard that story, have you? We never tell that story. But it's Colorado. Milford called me right away. I was in Oregon. He was crying. Big Milford, never intimidated by anybody. And he says, "Dick, God just slowed me down 20 minutes so I could meet Big Bill. Took us 20 minutes in that little dump across the street doing whatever it was going on." And he said, "I almost want to go back and see if those guys were all angels." Just trying to keep us there. But Bill's coming. Milford and I took Bill to Camp Hale that spring. He came in his brand new big truck. I had a rental Jeep. Milford was with me, and we sat in the valley, and we walked up that non-road, and he said, "I can do this." The week before the camporee, Bill arrived. Peterbilt, 1985, brand new. Milk truck, 1986. I mean, it was that kind of a guy. It was brand new, absolutely never been used for anything. And he says, "This is going to be fun." And we watched as he took that Peterbilt right up the side of the mountain and parked that 10,000-gallon milk tank 300 feet above the valley on a promontory that you can't get to, and then drove the truck back down and said, "I'll be back." And the next morning he was back with another one. 6 inches up, gravity feed down into our irrigation pipes all over the valley. About the time Bill had agreed to do that for us, I get a call from North American Division. Dick, we've got this horrible problem." And there's somebody back there going into absolute hissy conniptions over the fact that they'd just gotten a letter from Colorado state government. And so they sent it to me. And I'm at Pacific Union College that day, and the letter comes, and it's a big box. And in that box is one simple letter that reads, "Dear Adventists, we understand that you're planning a child activity, an activity in Camp Hale that will include children between the ages of small and old. And we need you to be sure that before you do this, you must have the permission of the Colorado State Child Care Office to hold a day camp and be You need to be licensed as a daycare center. Here are the regs. Meet them. We're waiting for your application. Well, so I sat down, I looked at the application form and said, yeah, we're going to be having, and by then I was serious about 10,000. We're going to be having 10,000 children, and we need a permit to operate this as a daycare center. Can you imagine what those regs say? They are absolutely absurd. We had to have a toilet for every 7 kids. How do you do that? How do you do that when the Pathfinders come from every place in the world, and some of them haven't seen toilets, you know? And so there's just no way I'm going to fill this out. And the more I read, I just start laughing because there is nothing in this book that's possible. Nothing. I have to have permits from their parents. I have to have this and that. And the government is nuts. And it's a good thing, by the way. So I called Colorado's. Which country was it? Yes. I called Colorado State Child Services and said, I'd like to make an appointment with Frank Rady, the guy whose name is on this letter I just got. Who are you? My name's Dick Duerksen. Where are you from? Seventh-day Adventist Church. Oh, yeah, we heard about you guys. How many are you going to have? And I said, lots. All right, so they set an appointment for me for the next Tuesday. I flew to Denver. Get to Budget, and the guy at Budget rental car says, hey, Dick, I got a new car I want you to try. I lived in Budget cars for almost a year. Finally bought my own. Dan Kittrell bought me a Jeep. And I parked it at the airport with Budget and just said, just keep this for me. All right, we'll do that for you. So I'd go to the Budget counter and say, like my Jeep, please? I drove downtown Denver to a government office, ugly, gray. 3rd floor, ugly, gray. Around, it's one of those that's got an elevator in the middle and offices all around the outside. The glass is all covered with rules. And I finally come to the door, and I knock on the door, and the lady says, it's open, can't you read? And I said, it did say come in. Okay. I'm in, and the lady is looking at me, and she says, who are you? I said, my name is Dick Duerksen. I'm with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I'm looking for Frank Rady. I have an appointment today at 10:30. Oh, yeah, Frank! And there's a grunt from a cubicle. He'll see you. So I walk over to the cubicle, and there sits Grizzly Adams. Nice, beautiful Pendleton wool shirt. Levi's that look like he knows how to wear them. They're worn in the right places. And boots. You can tell a lot about a man by his boots. You can tell that he just went to the sale at Shepler's. Or you can tell that he's had them a long time. These were long-time boots. And they were on his gray metal government-issue desk. And he was leaning back in his gray Naugahyde government-issue chair. He was looking at me. His big cowboy hat sitting on the desk. So who are you? My name's Dick Duerksen. I'm with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I pulled out my professional set of plans for a Pathfinder campery at Camp Hale. We had our toilet locations. We'd figured out how to get into the phone system. We'd done our work, and I had everything. This is where the Atlantic Union's going to be. We're going to have a whole bunch of kids there. This is where the international group from the South and the international group from Australia. And I started laying all this out. And he said, you realize you got to have a potty for every 7 bods. I said, yeah, that's a bit of a problem we need to talk about. He looked at the plans. He'd finally reluctantly moved his feet. Here's what I want you to do. Take your everyday, ordinary life. You're getting up in the morning, flying United to Denver, getting out, picking up your Jeep, going down to the Colorado State Child Protective Services Department and asking them to give you a permit for a 3-week daycare center for 16,000 kids. I'd changed my number by then. Life. And place it before God as an offering. Embracing what he has already done for you is all you can do for him. I live that way, folks. Every day. The requests God makes are impossible to fulfill. I mean, he wants a milk truck on the side of a mountain? How do you do that? You don't. Embracing what he has already done for you is all you can do for him. You let God lead you to Bill, who says, you bet your life. He came to the camporee, stood around, walked, and every once in a while he'd climb the mountain and pat his trucks. And then he'd come back down, big cigar, and say, man, it's fun being part of this. God uses his people. I don't know who they all are. I don't know what weird habits they have. I don't know anything about most of his people. All I know is about me. I'm broken. I'm dumb. I'm foolish. I make dumb mistakes. And God says, I'll use you if you'll let me. And I say, okay, here's my life. Take it. And I'm going to embrace whatever it is you've already gotten cared for me. And Frank Rady looks at me and says, what'd you say your name is? Dick Duerksen. I don't care who you're with. What's your name? Dick Duerksen. You have any relatives in Denver? Oh, am I in trouble? There remaineth one in Denver. He's an obstetrician. Eddie Duerksen. He weighs about what Milford does, but he's a wee bit shorter, about 2 feet. When I decided that I wanted to get married, I didn't have any money at all, and so Eddie called and says, hey, you getting married? Yeah. Come on down to Denver and I'll do your physical. For free. And I thought, yeah, that's a good deal. So I walked into Eddie's office and there are 4,000 women in all stages of preparation. And I walk in and they thought I was a drug salesman, of course. And so I go to the desk and say, let's see Dr. Duerksen, please. Well, Eddie is not the kind of guy who would just let that go. So a few minutes later, he comes out to, and he's dressed in all of his finest white scrubs, and he comes out and he says, Richard Duerksen, oh, I get to do yours physical today. Come on. Most embarrassing moment of my life. And he loved every second of it. I believe that Eddie has delivered half of the children ever born in Denver. Because everywhere I go, I meet people who say, Eddie Duerksen delivered my boy. And you either love him or you despise him. For I don't know why it's that way. I first met Eddie when he was a missionary in British Guyana and started the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital down there. That's the first time I met him. I was just a kid. And he came by our house in Mayaguez, Puerto Rico, and spent a day just telling me mission stories. And I fell in love with this cousin of mine. And so I look at Frank, and I don't know whether I've got a lover or a hater. Heads. I didn't know what to do, but my head said, he's your cousin. Love him. And I said, yeah, I have one relative that I know of that you might know in Denver. It's Eddie Duerksen. He's a physician. That's Dr. Edward Duerksen to you. Yes, sir. And he pushed the papers aside. Sit down. I sat in the gray Naugahyde government issues side chair and listened as Frank began to cry. Grizzly Adams in tears. A year ago, My wife and I had a baby boy. Was delivered, I think he said down in Swedish. It was, we delivered down there, and Dr. Duerksen has privileges there, and he was my wife's doctor. And when our baby was delivered, it wasn't really healthy. Our boy wasn't what we prayed for and hoped for, and we were just terrified. And Dr. Duerksen had my wife moved into a private room, and that baby brought into the room in an incubator, and the nurse assigned, and Dr. Duerksen put a cot in that room and slept in that room for 5 days to make sure that nothing happened to my baby boy. Dr. Duerksen is God to me, son. Now come with me. We got to have a talk. And Grizzly Adams reached down, grabbed my pile of papers, threw his arms around me, walked me across to the room in the back of state child protective, whatever it was. Not a place I want to ever go again. And back into that glass room where the boss lives. He opened the glass door and he said, "Marjorie, this is Dick Duerksen. He's Eddie Duerksen, Dr. Duerksen's cousin. It's so cool. He's the guy with the Adventists who want to do the nutty thing in Camp Hale. Look at this stuff." And they pour it all out, and in a few minutes, I've got stamps all over all the pages saying, "Do whatever you want to do. You're Dr. Duerksen's cousin." True story. Have you ever heard that one? And here's what I want you to do every morning. Take your everyday, ordinary life, place it before God as an offering. I got downstairs. It was, remember the cell phones we had in 1984? I found a payphone, dropped it a quarter, called Eddie. "Eddie!" "Oh, hi, Dick. Got a story to tell you." I told him the story, and he said, "What did you say the guy's name was?" Frank Brady, Frank and Elizabeth Hain. Huh. I don't even remember them, but there's a lot of people who come through, and I do that. What you talk about, the cot, and I do that with a lot of patients where their kids, I don't know him. And Jesus said, when the king returns to take his children home, he will call all of them together and separate them into sheep and goats. And then he will say to the sheep, "Come, enter the kingdom of my Father." Why? Because when you saw me hungry, you fed me. Because when you saw me thirsty, you gave me water. Because whenever I had a need and I came to you with that need, you gave. Did we? We don't remember that. That's why you get in. And the goats, you can't come in. Why not? Because when I came to you hungry, you fed me. But you then said, "Hey, everybody, we just fed him." And when I came to you thirsty and naked, you did all the stuff you should have. But you did it for you. And you'd be miserable here. The sheep were dumbfounded to be admitted to heaven. The goats were dumbfounded not to be admitted because they had lived determined to be like God wanted them to be. And the sheep said, "All we ever did was embrace what you've done for us and let you do whatever you wanted through us." That's grace in its clearest picture in the Scripture. And I didn't believe that, and so I went to Desire of Ages to read the story of the sheep and the goats. You know what I found? I found this incredible quote on the first page of the chapter on sheep and goats in Ellen White's Desire of Ages. She quotes the beginning of the story. And the king, when he comes, will divide his people into two groups, sheep and goats. And then Ellen White makes this comment. The eternal destiny of every human is determined by how they live for the needs of the poor and suffering of the world. And then she proceeds to give you a whole chapter of what it means to live for God, not caring who gets the credit. The chapter ends with words something like this. There's nothing you can do that will add anything to what Christ has already done for you. You like that? Now, if I just messed with your minds a lot tonight, all I did was talk about a camporee, right? When Frank Rady and his boss came to the camporee, they came over to my little section and where I'm desperately trying to make sure that the potties are cleaned and all the rest of this stuff. You know, it's just crazy. That's got to be the best, worst time of my life. I showed them all around in my little Jeep. We bounced all over from the toe to the top of the boot and back, up and looked at the gorgeous stainless steel water tanks. Told them the story and they laughed. And they handed me a sheet of paper. This sheet of paper, signed by my friends in the Colorado State Department of Child Services, says, "This grants Dick Duerksen." Doesn't say Adventist, it doesn't say Pathfinders, to operate a day camp for children ages, I don't remember what they were, for 16,000 children at Campion, Colorado. And then, luckily, it gives an ending date. Because I don't ever want to do that again. And then they signed it. Because of Eddie. Because of Eddie. Because of a man who went through Loma Linda University as a medical student and said, the only thing I want to do with my life is give it away. Where do you want me to go, Lord? And God sent him to British Guyana now. You can go to the hospital. You can see his picture on the wall. Then he came back, moved to Denver, and loved people every day. Maranatha Volunteers International is building buildings right now in Zimbabwe. You know where Zimbabwe is? Rhodesia. Southern half of Rhodesia, if you go to Google, you'll see that it's the most dangerous, worst-run, dictator-led country in the world. It's one of the three most don't you ever dare go there countries. We're building schools in Zimbabwe. We have one going up in Harare. We have one going up in Masvingo. We have one going up in Bulawayo, which, by the way, is right near Salusi Adventist University. And we've got churches going. And we've just finished a huge new 900-student campus in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. Absolutely some of the best fun times I've ever had. We've taken thousands of volunteers to Zimbabwe. We will continue to do that. Last year, as the school in Bulawayo was getting started, a group of volunteers from Oklahoma said they wanted to go. Okay. Our people in the office put it all together, and a group of volunteers from Oklahoma went to Bulawayo to build part of the school. But they also signed on to build 5 one-day churches. Now, one-day churches are nice carports. They're sticks and roof, made out of steel that is better than anything anybody's got in any of those villages. And I thought the first time I saw them that this was a stupid idea because I'd never have church in one of those in Colorado. But then I started helping build them around Africa, India, and realized that as soon as we would get that sticks and steel up, the people would pull out of somewhere walls. Sometimes it was fire brick. Sometimes it was kinisu. Sometimes it was bamboo. And then they would take that building and turn it into a sanctuary for God. And I realized that all we were giving them was the ability to believe in themselves to prepare a sanctuary for God. I'm a believer. I'm glad to see them build and help build them. Just came back from some in Ecuador. That's a different story. A group of volunteers, including Billy and Bobby, both big, large farmers in Oklahoma. This is sections of wheat, okay? Big international harvester in one of them, big John Deere's in the other. And not ones that just have wheels. These are ones with tracks. You know, the real grinders. So they go. It's hard. They couldn't get away. It was tough. They had a lot of work they needed to do at home. It was a bad time of year, but they went anyway. And so they get all the way to Bulawayo, and they get in the Maranatha four-wheel drive, white Toyota four-door pickup truck with a steel on the back, and they drive out to Sazindi, which is way several hours, hour and a half, almost 2 hours away from Bulawayo, in nowhere. There's a mango tree. And Maranatha has come and put 4 posts and said, plant it there. So they get out, they put all the steel down on the ground, and they start trying to put it up, and they're not any good at all. We've had crews that can put up a one-day church in 3.5 hours now. We've really been building hard, trying to meet needs. Well, at the end of the first day, these guys couldn't get the sticks straight, and so they're still trying to put trusses, and it's just, they finally say, go home. And so they go back to Bulawayo. They grab one of our Maranatha supervisors and say, come out and help us tomorrow. And so he goes along in their white, help me, Toyota, four-wheel drive, four-door pickup with the Maranatha sign on the door. And they go out, and because he's there, he organizes them. They get the trusses up, they get the roof on, and everybody cheers and realizes they left the roof cap. The church's rain hat, if you will, the one that goes right across the top, and didn't bring it. Oh, man. And so they go home. The next day, Billy and Bobby get in the white Toyota, four-wheel drive, four-door pickup with the Maranatha sign on the door. And they drive back out to Sazindi. They get to Sazindi, and as Bobby gets out of the truck, he glances up to the forest because there's been a guy there all day, every day, 2 days. And there he is, big, tall, black African, in an orange prison jumpsuit. I have no idea what second-class clothing bundle that came from, but he looked at it and said, I like that, so he wears it. And he's standing, watching. So during this time, they've had church members come and help and laugh at them. And this day, the two of them get out, they put the ladders up, they take the roof cap, they screw it down all the way and get it done, and then they go, let's get out of here. And as they get down from the building, Bobby says, I'm going to go talk to that guy. Yeah, it's a good idea. He just stands there. So Bobby walks up to the forest, puts his hand out and says, hi, my name's Bobby. I'm from Oklahoma in the United States. Are you a member here? And Alejandro says, I am. May I tell you a story? Yeah. And by now, Billy has joined them. In 1964, I was baptized under that mango tree. I met Jesus here. I have been a member since 1964. In 1964, I started praying every single day, morning, noon, night, and many times in between, God, send us a church. Nobody wants to meet under a mango tree. We need a real church that represents you. Send us a church. And I began praying that in 1964. Every day. 9 years ago, and this happened in 2012, 9 years ago, an angel came to me in a dream one night, woke me up, and said, Alejandro, God has heard your prayer. The church is coming. He said, so I changed my prayer. Instead of praying every day many times, God, send us a church, I said, hurry, God. But as you know, God is the universe's greatest procrastinator. He always waits till the last minute. Have you noticed that? I got to ask him about that. My wife won't let me do that. Six months ago, I had another dream. The angel woke me up, same angel. Woke me up in the middle of the night. Said, Alejandro, I want to show you a movie. I'd never seen a movie. I didn't know what that was. Pictures that move, and he showed me pictures that move. He showed me coming down that little road, a white Toyota four-wheel drive, four-door pickup with Marinoff on the side, a bunch of white Americans inside, and steel on the back. They came, they parked behind the mango tree. They looked where the other guys, the Mozambican dudes, had come and put the stakes, and they really didn't know what they were doing. And the angel said, it's okay, just watch. And they spent all day arguing with each other and trying to get everything straight, and nothing had worked. And at the end of the day, they just got in the truck and drove away. And the angel said, I'm sorry, but watch. And the next day, I watched, and down the road came that same white four-wheel drive, four-door, isn't it cool? Pickup truck with Marinoff on the door. And this time they had a smart man with them from Mozambique. And he got out, and he showed them how to do it, and it didn't take long at all until they had the trusses up and the roof on, and then somebody down there went, oh, no! And realized that they had forgotten the rain hat for the church. So they got in the truck and drove away. On day 3, they came back. Just 2 of them. You 2. And the angel said, watch this. The 2 men got out, took the generator, put it under turned it on, put the ladders up, got the roof cap up, screwed it all down. And when they were all finished, they put everything back in the truck. And one of the guys came to talk to me. It was you, Mr. Bobby. May I shake your hand again? And Bobby just automatically, like any good American, sure, put his hand out. This time it was a good, solid African Zimbabwe shake. 1, 2, 3, whack. And the man in the prison jumpsuit said, Sir, thank you. I have always dreamed of meeting my angel. You were the one who 9 years ago showed me that God was sending a church, that it was on its way. You are the one who 6 months ago came and showed me a moving picture of 3 days building a one-day church. Thank you for showing me yourself today. And they embraced, prayed. Bobby and Billy walked back to their truck. And Billy says, well, how do you feel about that? And Bobby's answer was very slow in coming, and when it did, it was very simple. I've been called a lot of things in my life, but that's the first time I've been called an angel. On the way back to Bulawayo, Bobby added the next phrase that I don't want you ever to forget. What if we hadn't come? What if he had stood waiting? You know what's going on at home. You got troubles with your harvesters. I got a problem with a cultivator that I've got to get fixed. I don't have the money to do that. I put all that money into going on a mission trip. And I got to get that thing fixed. And it's a big John Deere, and I'm not sure how to fix that track. But we can. Because something in our heart said, God needed us in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, not in Oklahoma. What if we hadn't come? 9 years ago, God used my face, my voice, to tell Alejandro that the church was coming. 6 months ago, God used my voice, my face, in a video of 3 days, 1 day of incompetent, 2 days, of a church. What if we hadn't come? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your everyday, ordinary life. You're fixing the tractor. You're fixing the treads. Whatever it is you do. Sculpting the sculpture. Pastoring the church. Pastoring the conference. Whatever it is you do, it's everyday, ordinary. Until you include God. And I want you to take your everyday, ordinary life, your life, place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God has already done for you is all you can ever do for Him. Lord, I wonder who you're using today to talk to people somewhere in this world and promise that we're on our way. May we be so in tune with you that we follow wherever you need us to go. That we say whatever you need us to say. We do whatever you need us to do. That you do the transforming inside of us so that, like Frank Grady, the world sees you.